This is Tracy with Watch Kansas, and today we're talking with Pat Proctor from Leavenworth. Pat, do you want to go ahead and tell us just a little bit about yourself and maybe some background on what you're running for this year?
All right. Well, hi. My name is Pat Proctor. I'm running to serve the people of Leavenworth and Fort Leavenworth as their state representative in Topeka. I'm an Army veteran. I spent about 25 years in the Army. Did 2 tours in Iraq, 1 in Afghanistan, and a bunch of other fun places along the way. I'm also a business owner. Me and my wife, we started Bontai Restaurant here in Leavenworth in 2006, and it's grown beyond all comprehension to several restaurants here in Leavenworth, Lawrence, and Manhattan. And I'm actually also an educator. During the school year, I teach a day a week at Wichita State University in their Homeland Security program as an assistant professor. And so that's all about me.
Now, do you teach, do you they have a school here, or do you drive down there, or
Yeah,
is it virtual?
Well, right now with coronavirus, I'm not driving anywhere. It's all virtual. But in normal times, I'm down there a day a week. I drive all the way down to Wichita and come back the same day usually. Yeah, I teach in the Homeland Security program, but I'm actually by education a historian, so I'm also teaching some military history for the Army ROTC down there, which is a great treat for me as an Army veteran.
Makes it nice to spend some time with the young people, doesn't it?
Yeah, it is, and I'll tell you what, the future of the nation's bright if those kids are any measure.
I agree. I've got some nieces and nephews, and you'll hear sometimes people talk about, well, I don't know what this next generation is coming to. I do, and it's some amazing things.
Yeah, I'm filled with hope. I really am. A lot of great kids that are coming as I've left the Army, that are coming in, that are going to keep our nation free.
I agree. Here in Leavenworth, I know this is for the open seat that you're running for. What challenges do you see in this area that you would like to address?
Well, I'll tell you what got me into the race is that there are just so many folks that are underemployed or unemployed. You know, I live up here in North Leavenworth on Kickapoo, right off of 7th Street. It's like maybe a few blocks from the front gate. And we had picked out a house a long time ago, and I was a geographical bachelor for about 5 years because I was off where the Army sent me, and my wife and kids couldn't leave with the restaurants. And so when we finally knew I was retiring here in 2017, I came back and started my last couple years. We kind of had the house that we wanted to retire in picked out. It was kind of neat old house that it needed a lot of work. Needed a lot of work. It had been unoccupied for 3 years, and when we started to work on it, there were a couple kids that were squatting in our garage. They were, maybe 20, unemployed. Unfortunately, got hooked on drugs, and they were homeless, living in our downtown. And where I live, I'm just a few blocks from the homeless shelter, and I see that population of folks that were living just on the edge and making it, and then they kind of teetered off the edge because of circumstances, or losing a job, or getting into trouble with substances. But there are so many folks in my neighborhood that are just on the other side of that. They're just living on the very edge of poverty, and they're stuck in government dependency. They're stuck by all the systems that we've designed to help folks, like food stamps and welfare, and they're trapped in generational poverty. A lot of them, they're in the 3rd generation, 4th generation of family that has been stuck in this rut, unable to grow their lives. And I just, we've got to bring jobs, and we've got to bring opportunity here to Leavenworth. We're not going to be able to do that if we don't unleash the potential of all those people. And that's really what's driven me to get this race, is just my neighbors and seeing the struggles that they have, and wanting to help them find a way out of it.
And I'll be honest, I'm not from Leavenworth, and I didn't realize that you guys did have a homeless problem, a homeless situation up here.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah, and it was, it was really tragic when the coronavirus happened, because our shelter, a lot of the folks that help at our shelter are older, and they're in that vulnerable population, and so that limited their capacity to take people. It also limited their capacity to keep people. If people left, they couldn't let them back in. And I mean, it broke my heart how many folks were turned away from the homeless shelter and had to live down here in the downtown, in the elements, because we just didn't have the capacity to take care of them. We had a server that worked for us from the very beginning of when we opened our restaurant, and unfortunately she got hooked up, got messed up in substances, and she became homeless. She's been in and out of jail, and she came out of jail after they closed it breaks my heart. She came out of jail after they closed the homeless shelter to new intake, and she was stuck on the streets for weeks and weeks and weeks until they finally reopened. These aren't bad folks. These are folks that have, they were, like I said, they were trapped in this government dependency, this generational poverty. And when the way that system is built, you can only make just a teeny tiny bit amount of money, or you lose all the benefits. And so they're constantly having to kind of ride that line at the very edge of what they're allowed to make, so that they don't fall off. And that, that's precarious. It only takes one serious life event, and you're homeless. And I hate to keep going on about it, but my old next door neighbor, not my current next door neighbor, as a couple, they had a young baby. The wife left. The man who was living there, her husband, was not able to make it without her additional income. He became homeless. I mean, she left with the baby, and he was homeless. And it's like I said, it is morally wrong to keep people trapped in that system, and we've got to figure out a way to help those, guide those people out of that situation and get them back to a position where they can grow their lives.
What's the job situation in Leavenworth? Is there a high unemployment rate, or are there quite a few jobs that are available, or what's the job situation?
It's ironic. Even before the coronavirus, we were always struggling for people, right? Because the folks that are trapped in that system, they can work, but they can only work a certain number of hours, right? So you've got a population that is got to make just enough that they can make ends meet, but not so much that they lose the assistance that they're stuck in through the government. And so while there are all these people that are unemployed or underemployed, you can't find people to work here in the restaurant. And it's not just here, it's also down in Lawrence, it's also down in Manhattan, to a lesser degree. But it's a big problem here in Leavenworth, and it really pulls down the entire economy here in the town, because we've got people, but we don't have people to work. There's a restaurant down on 20th Street. All the folks watching this from Leavenworth will know it. It used to be Mama Mia's, and they sold because they lost their cook, and they couldn't find anybody to cook, and they were going to retire anyway, so they sold it. And they sold it to a young man who had finished high school here at Immaculata and then left. He came back to run a restaurant. And I talked to him as he was rebuilding, and he couldn't find anybody to work. He was going to have to ship people in from Kansas City to work, and that's very difficult to sustain a restaurant in this town when you are having to import labor from out of town to keep your restaurant running. It's just not sustainable. And so, I really think that the way to get Leavenworth moving, I hear all the time as I'm talking to people and I'm knocking on doors, I hear all the time, we need more stuff here. There's nothing for the kids to do. My kids are leaving because there's nothing, no jobs for them here, and they've got to go out of town to work. If we want to grow the economy, we got to get that base of people that are right now stuck in a system that won't let them grow their lives and won't even get better jobs and get better, raise more money for their family. We got to get those people out of that system in a position where they can work as many hours as they want and are able to work in order to, if we want to bring in businesses, because we want white collar jobs, but white collar jobs are squared by blue collar jobs, and a lot of folks that are in the age group that would be doing blue collar jobs in this town are stuck in the system that prevents them from being full participants in the economy.
What kind of blue collar jobs do you see that would be feasible to bring into Leavenworth?
If we can get if we can unleash the potential of this group that I'm talking about, really the sky's the limit. I mean, that we're blessed with a pretty large amount of rural area right on the edge of our town, in every direction, and a lot of places for the town to grow. But we're never going to bring businesses in if there's not a labor force for them. Why would an Amazon warehouse or a Walmart warehouse or you know, some kind of you know, wholesale facility or any kind of business, why would they come here and then import labor from Kansas City? You know, a lot of folks talk in this town about, oh, we need high-speed access to I-70. That's going to bring business. Well, no, if there's nobody here to work, the business is not going to come here. It's just going to stay down there on I-70 close to where the labor is. And so it's, you know, there's a chicken and an egg thing going on there, but you have to have the labor force that's able to work before you can attract the businesses here. But if we can unleash the potential of all these people that right now are not able to be full participants in our economy, the sky's really the limit.
In some place like Amazon warehouse would be nice because they pay pretty decent.
Yeah.
So it would be, it's very easy to support yourself on what
Yeah.
you would make in an Amazon warehouse. You wouldn't
Yeah.
have to worry about government subsidies at that point.
But even, you know, even the small businesses that are already here are always struggling for folks to work. You know, before all this coronavirus stuff started, we were in the middle of opening a new restaurant just down the street. It was going to be a noodle shop. God willing, we'll get, you know, through this coronavirus stuff and we'll be back at it. But when when the economy was operating at full capacity, it was taking forever to get the thing done because the electricians didn't have enough people, the plumbers didn't have enough people, you know, the contractors did not have enough folks to do work to meet the demand. And so at the same time, I don't have employees to, you know, fill the restaurant to serve our customers. These businesses that support those service businesses also are in the same struggles.
That makes a lot of sense. I know you also have, we were talking earlier, and you said we also have quite a good population of those who are released from prisons.
Yeah.
Will frequently stay here and make this their home.
Yeah, and yeah, that's true. But and also families that come to be close to folks while they're serving their sentence. So that that's a piece of it. And that's really, in my opinion, that's more untapped potential. If we can just get people out of this cycle of government dependency and get them back to being full participants in our economy.
Agreed. Now, you said your family, you've been here about 10 years or so?
Yes. So we came here in 2006. So I came here for the Command General Staff College, which is here at Fort Leavenworth. And I sent my wife ahead, and she was supposed to be looking for a house. And after a few days, she called me and she said she found a restaurant. And so we became citizens of Leavenworth at the same time we became small business owners. We had a couple friends that we had known from when we were stationed in Hawaii, and they had opened a Thai restaurant right outside the gate. It's where the Excellent Choice is for the folks in Leavenworth here, and they had gotten into the restaurant and they just did not realize how much work it was, and they wanted out of it. And it had been my wife's lifelong dream to have a restaurant, and she dragged me kicking and screaming into the restaurant industry, and here we are today. But yeah, so we've been here since 2006, and you know what? The day we got here, we knew right away this is where we wanted to retire. It took a while to convince the Army of that, but we knew right away that we were going to spend the rest of our lives here. We love the town. The folks here are just so friendly. I'm a historian, and wherever you look, there's history. I mean, every building has a story. Every home has a story. It's just a great historic district. It's the first city of Leavenworth, for God's sake. So we knew right away it's where we wanted to spend the rest of our lives, and I'm excited to finally be out of the Army and on that adventure.
Well, congratulations, and thank you for your service.
I was honored to serve. Thank you for your service too. Yeah.
Now, there's a lot going on with everything in the world right now. It's a completely different world than we grew up in. What do you see more, not just with Leavenworth, but at the state level? What do you see is probably some of the biggest challenges facing Kansas?
That's a great question. The business climate in this state has become increasingly hostile to small business owners every year over the last 2 or 3 years. The property taxes and the cost of ownership of a building is just skyrocketing. And the legislature a few years ago, they put in this tax lid system that basically means that in order to raise the mill levy, a municipality has to put it to a vote of the citizens. Well, all the municipalities have figured out this backdoor way to bump the property taxes up through valuation increases. And so over the last 2 years alone, last year Leavenworth County had an average 8% increase, but a lot of the buildings and homes went up like double digits. This building, we didn't do anything to it. It's gone up double digits in property taxes. And then the next year is 5% average, which again means some people are paying a lot more. But there's also all these kind of backdoor pseudo property taxes that happen, especially like right here in Leavenworth. We had this stormwater fee, and it sure for all the world looks to me like a tack on to my property tax, but it's a fee, so they don't have to go to the voters and ask us to approve it, right? And so they're all, and it's not just happening here in Leavenworth, it's happening around the state. It's down Johnson County, it's really, really bad. In Lawrence, we're having a problem with with properties there. So, if we want to grow our economy, if we want our entrepreneurs to take that leap of faith and, risk their life savings in order to grow the economy, but more importantly, to put Kansans to work, which for God's sake is so important right now with the unemployment, from the coronavirus. If we want them to take that risk, we got to meet them halfway. And that means making the cost of ownership of buildings, or for the folks at home, the cost of ownership of the home, affordable. We've just got to get accountability back to our property tax system. Another thing that's really really a struggle for small business owners we talked about was this population of people that are trapped in a system that prevents them from meeting their full potential. And so they're talking in the legislature. They were talking about it during the regular session. They were talking about it in the special session. And I'm sure next year they're going to go back and they're going to talk about Medicaid expansion, giving Medicaid to able-bodied adults that would otherwise be, working in the economy and getting, growing their lives and their jobs to the point where they're able to get health insurance through the health insurance exchange. It's salary cap, just like food stamps, just like welfare. And so you're putting people in this impossible situation where you tell them you can either grow your life or you can have health care. That is wrong. That is immoral. But it doesn't just hurt that person and that family, it also hurts the state. So yeah, people need health care. I'm all about affordable health care, but how about we do it by subsidizing small businesses with under a certain number of employees so that they can offer health care to their employees, and then the person who needs the health care is not penalized for working too much. Right. They have an incentive to work, and continue to work because they get their health care through their employer. Or there's a lot of ways to crack that nut, but we've got to do it in a way that doesn't put another chain on people that are already trapped in a system that is designed to keep them poor.
Okay, now last year during the regular session, I think it may have rolled over to the special section a little bit, we had the value them both amendment.
Yeah. That
they were trying to simply get the amendment regarding part of the abortion issue on the ballot for Kansans.
Yeah.
And it didn't quite go through so last year, and the point was not that it was going to do anything one way or another to the abortion issue. Yeah. It was simply to let Kansans choose, and a lot of the legislature did not trust their constituents to make those choices and to vote on and choose what Kansas values were at that point. Where do you stand on that?
Well, I'll start by saying for the people of Leavenworth and Fort Leavenworth, just so there's no question, I absolutely support the value in both amendment. And if you honor me with your vote, and I'm sent to be your representative in Topeka, I'm going to vote for the value in both amendment. So then I want to back up and I want to kind of explain why I feel so strongly about it. So in April of last year, the Kansas Supreme Court essentially took away our rights as Kansans through our legislature to place common sense regulations on the abortion industry. You know, things like a 12-year-old can't go get an abortion without the consent of their parents. You know, things like we can't do dismemberment abortions, you know, late in the term. You know, to me, those are things that the vast majority of Kansans, even people that might call themselves pro-choice, would agree with. But the decision by the Kansas Supreme Court put all of those restrictions that are already on the books at risk. Of course, when this amendment came up, all the usual suspects came out and said they're trying to ban abortion. You know, they're going to take away exemptions for life of the mother, or for rape or incest. You know, they tried to scare Kansans into opposing the amendment. But the amendment simply returns things to the way they were before April, when the Supreme Court made their decision. You know, the legislature, which is our elected representatives, will have the right to place common sense regulations on the abortion industry to keep both, you know, children and the mothers safe. You know, things like cleanliness standards for abortion clinics. I mean, these are things that just about every Kansan agrees with, and you know, whether they're pro-life or pro-choice. And so I feel like this is just a return to kind of common sense. And so I absolutely support the value of both amendment. And like I said, if I'm honored with the vote of the people and within Fort Leavenworth, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Something else I'd say: beware of the Democrat that says they're pro-life. Our current representative went all over town and told everybody he was pro-life for 3 years, and then he got up there to legislature and he was put on the spot on this value them both amendment, and he found a million reasons why he couldn't vote for it. So he may very well be pro-life. I don't know. Now, he's had 2 pretty bad votes on life, you know, that and then also the abortion pill reversal notification he voted against. But beware of Democrats that tell you that they're pro-life. Not a single Democrat in the legislature voted for the value them both amendment, because the governor told them that, you know, she'd run a primary opponent against them if they voted against her, because she didn't want the amendment. And so, you know, if you can roll the dice, or you can make sure that our rights are restored through our legislature.
So, regardless of whether you are pro-life or pro-choice or somewhere in the middle, don't most people want to have the option for Kansans to make that choice instead of a handful of judges?
And that's a great point. You know, even if the value them both resolution passes the legislature, we still get the vote, right?
Right.
It's a majority of Kansans still have to vote before that becomes a constitutional amendment. So basically, the Democrats and Governor Kelly did not trust the people of Kansas to make their own informed decision about whether they want this to be a part of their constitution, whether they want to have the right through their legislature to make regulations on the abortion industry. That to me just defies logic. I don't understand. I mean, okay, I got it. If you feel that it's not a good amendment, let's go ahead and let the Kansans decide. You can make your argument, and Republicans and pro-life advocates will make their argument, and then Kansans will decide. I have exceeding confidence in the common sense of the average Kansan. They will make the right decision.
Kansans do tend to be very hard-headed, stubborn. We like to make our own choices.
Yeah.
We don't want someone making
Yeah.
them for us. We don't want a handful of judges making them. So I think that would be something, regardless of which side of the debate you're on, the debate to be able to, for Kansans to make their own choices to vote on. I think that's
absolutely,
should be pretty much across the board.
Leavenworth is the gateway to the West, and you know, starting 200 years ago, Americans from every walk of life came here because they were stubborn.
Yes.
And they wanted freedom and opportunity and liberty to make their own choices, good or bad, and you know, make a life for themselves. And I think that, you know, Kansans reflect that spirit even today. So let's trust them.
Now, from that, you brought up your the current seat holder here.
Yeah.
Being military and being a small business owner, I'm presuming that you're pretty hard working.
Yeah.
Being military, what happens if you don't show up At work for a few days.
Yeah, you know what? There are no days off when you're defending your nation. You know, and I'm not running against our current representative, so that his attendance record in our legislature is a matter for his opponent for the Senate seat. But I will say that when you embark on this journey of trying to gain the confidence of your neighbors and asking them to trust you to represent them in Topeka on these vital issues, these life and death issues in some cases, that's a public service. And I just can't, I can't imagine somebody, anybody, taking on that responsibility and then not showing up. And so, I've 25 years in the Army. I've been some really bad places, some really late nights, some really bad weather, and some real tough terrain. But you know what? When you're defending the nation, when you're serving the nation, you don't get days off. And I see this as a continuation of my lifetime of public service, and I'm going to show up.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Now, back to your lifetime public service. I know that there's a lot of things that you're very involved in the community. Why don't you go ahead and explain some of the things you're involved in with the community? I know you like to ring bells.
Yeah. So I have something very scandalous to tell you. I am in both Rotary and Lions. I'm making a stark admission here to the people of Leavenworth and Fort Leavenworth. Yeah. So I'm actually on the board for Rotary, and I'm also in Lions and participate in both as much as I'm able with the several other irons I have in the fire. I've also been pretty active with the veterans organizations here in town. I'm in the VFW, I'm in the American Legion. I'm actually also an officer in a very lesser known veterans organization called the Society of 40 and 8. We just had our 100th anniversary, by the way.
Yes, I'm familiar with
Yeah.
them. They're a very small organization, and they tend to
yeah. And so I'm also very active in my church. I'm on the discipleship team, but I also do a lot of other activities with my church. I go to First Baptist Church of Leavenworth over on 13th and Osage. I'll tell you, when this whole thing started with coronavirus, it was really devastating to a lot of people. It was just like a tornado hit almost, and it didn't damage any of the buildings, but it displaced all the lives, And a lot of folks, even folks that had jobs and were growing their lives and were doing great, most people don't have the means to go a couple weeks or a month or a couple months without a paycheck. And so when this whole thing started, we had a lot of folks that were really, really hurting. And so I got involved with this group. It's called Coronavirus Relief. It was really just a great guy named Michael Green, a lady named Tammy Martin, and a couple other small business owners all got together and just decided to figure out how to help as they went along. And so we were actually collecting donations here at Bontai. There were donations coming in from Wyandotte and Kansas City area. And we were just basically pooling our resources and distributing food every week. And at first we did it out here in my parking lot. It got too big for that. We moved over to the Youth Achievement Center. It got too big for that. And thank God my church was willing to let us use the parking lot over there. At the peak, we were serving 100 families every week.
That's amazing.
I know. And it's just, it broke my heart. It broke my heart to see people. It's like they were shell shocked. Everything had been going good, and all of a sudden they're in line for food because they don't know how they're going to pay their bills, and it really hit me to my core. And that really led me, on the topic of public service, to trying to get Kansas reopened.
Yes.
And I got involved with Open Up Kansas and did a little bit of standing on the steps of the Capitol and trying to urge legislators to put some pressure on Governor Kelly to get people back to work, because it's on some level the economic devastation of the coronavirus was doing more damage to this community than the coronavirus itself, and we just had to get people back to work.
Now, I live in Wyandotte, and it took a lot longer to get Wyandotte open than it did Leavenworth.
Yeah.
And so, as soon as Leavenworth County opened, the day, we went straight to Leavenworth for food.
Yep.
Because, do you know that there are people that plan out meals every week, and they cook every night? Do you know there's people that do that? Single people don't.
Hey, and as a restaurateur, thank God they don't. Thank God they don't. Yeah.
And you can only do so many takeouts because it may sound petty, but it's not. It wasn't as much of the I've been growing up. I can take care of myself. I can cook. I can clean. I can do all this. That's not the point. The point was it was the freedom to get up and go to that restaurant and to order my food and be in public. It was my choice.
Yeah.
What chances I wanted to take with me. I know exactly all the ramifications, all the options. Everybody that showed up in that restaurant knew the options.
Yeah.
But we're grown-ups. We get to make that choice. And don't get me wrong, there are places I don't go.
Yeah.
There are places thank God my parents, I never had to deal with that, and we're in a situation where they were in a care facility I couldn't go into. I can't even imagine the devastation. I lost both of them to cancer, so I spent a lot of time in and out of facilities.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine not being able to. I can't imagine.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I apologize. I can't imagine.
Yeah.
And it's about the worst thing I can imagine, worse than losing them even.
Yeah.
And so I know that was really hard for people. So someplace like that, I'm not going to go. I'm not going to go where there's a chance I'm going to take. I didn't go over to my significant other's parents for weeks because I do go out. I do go do things, so I'm not going to put purposefully somebody else at risk. But it's our choices.
And I can't fault anybody at all who makes the personal decision that because they feel they're at higher risk or for whatever reason, they decide, you know what, I'm going to stay home.
Yes.
I want to stay
Completely agree.
home. That should have. I think that always should have been the way we went about it, where people were informed as best as we were able, because it was a fluid situation and there were things that the government believed that turned out not to be true and back and forth. But give people as much information as you possibly can, the best information that you have, and then let them make decisions about balancing the risk to their health versus the risk to their livelihood. Because poverty kills too.
Exactly.
It'll be years before we know the toll in the number of suicides and the number of people who overdosed or were killed in alcohol-related incidents because of the despair that came from the economic shutdown. But the proof's in the numbers. We've opened back up. Some counties have opened up more than others. Locales are making their own decisions. Local governments are making their own decisions, informed by the people now, which is great. But that's the way it should have always been. But we're on the downswing.
Yeah.
We're on the downswing, and here in Leavenworth, we're on the downswing, and it looks like God willing, we're getting over the hump on this thing, and we're able to both have an economy and take prudent risks, but not but let people make their own decisions about their lives. But I tell you, getting back to this idea of public service and community service, the other thing that I was doing besides coronavirus relief is I was just calling folks. I was calling folks that I knew and calling folks that I didn't know that I had their information to just see how people were doing. And I was sad because I was talking to a lot of people who had not seen another human being except for the person delivering groceries for 2.5, 3 months, and that breaks your heart. And human contact. People need human contact. We're social animals. But on the other end of the spectrum, the people that were reaching out, the people that were taking care of their neighbors, the people who were taking that extra step, going out for a meal when they probably could have cooked at home to help the local small business owner. Every week we got right up to the wire on coronavirus relief and we thought we weren't going to have enough food, and somebody would pull up with a van and a whole bunch of cans of food or a whole bunch of bread or a whole bunch of eggs, or every week somebody stepped up, and that to me you know, neighbors taking care of neighbors. That's what Leavenworth's all about, and it heartened me that through this whole emergency we were able to pull through as a community because neighbors were taking care of neighbors.
You said you kept outgrowing your spaces when it's a bad thing that people that don't normally need, they're normally
Yeah.
you know, that
Yeah.
needed help. But it's just amazing that many people
Yeah.
kept coming in and coming in
Yeah.
and coming in
Yeah.
and bringing. So yeah,
And it was
that's
tough,
always
you know. I
great.
mean, everybody was hurting a little bit, and so you know, you got to think about that person that was hurting, but they still managed to go load up their van with cans and go help their neighbors. I mean, that just is. I mean, I get choked up. I mean, it's just
Yes.
that's why I live in Leavenworth, right there. That's why I live in Leavenworth. That's the people of Leavenworth, and I just love it here.
Now I ride with the Patriot. I don't ride much anymore, but I used to ride with the Patriot Guard.
Yeah.
And there was one particular ride we were coming from Olathe up here, and it was pretty good. It was probably about 500 or 600 bikes, and we were coming through, and all the way up, you've got road guards that are blocking the roads until you get to Lansing. You get to Lansing, the road guards block the major highways, and then you get actually into the city of Leavenworth, and the road guards just rode with us. They didn't have the opportunity to block the road because all the citizens did. The citizens stopped and blocked everything and got out of their cars. They got all the restaurants came out of their cars. From the car dealerships, you could see people walking by. And they all just stood there to honor the young man that we were taking up to his final resting place. And it just shows the community.
Yeah, yeah.
Leavenworth, the community involvement, and just, this is what we do. Everything stops because we have to come together as a community for 30 minutes, and then we'll get back to what we're doing. And I think that's just amazing. And it wasn't just on base; it was everybody coming out from all their businesses and everything. It just shows the community.
And you know, the town here is super supportive of the military. They're also super supportive of the corrections officers here. You know, that's an industry here. We've got the federal penitentiary, and then right down the street here in Lansing, we've got the Lansing Correctional Facility, and a lot of those corrections officers live right here in Leavenworth. And you know, this is a tough time to be a corrections worker. You know, the Lansing Correctional Facility was the worst epicenter in the state for coronavirus, and you know, people were out there honoring them almost every day, bringing them food. You know, just and you know, the folks that live in our community, their neighbors, were helping them out. I mean, just that's Leavenworth. I guess you already know, but that's the people of Leavenworth. Neighbors take care of neighbors here.
Yeah, it's definitely. We like to play this little game on Friday nights sometimes, and pick a restaurant we've never been to. And about 60% of the time when we pick a restaurant we've never been to, one of us says, well, maybe we should drive up to Leavenworth. They've got so many great restaurants. And we seldom pick a restaurant till we're in the parking lot.
Yeah.
We drive around and we see how many cars are there, what looks nice, and who has a pretty sign. And then we go on Facebook, we look for recommendations, and we pick. Like I said, at least 60% of the time it always is Leavenworth, just because we like Leavenworth. We like the vibe of Leavenworth. We feel comfortable in Leavenworth. We don't feel, every community has its crime, but I don't feel in Leavenworth like I have to watch my back like I do in the city. I feel like I'm comfortable in Leavenworth. I've been to multiple events up through here, and I've walked through your streets after dark in high heels by myself, and I don't feel unsafe like I do in a lot of places. That says a lot for your community.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, I hope that we still have all of that on the other side of this. I mean, we're not out of the woods yet. You know, there are a lot of businesses that are still hurting. We've got this new problem now. You know, a lot of businesses closed temporarily, and their employees went on unemployment, and now us business owners are competing with the government to get our employees back, because that extra $600 that they're getting, you know, no business can compete with that.
No.
It's just, you know, most restaurants, but especially like retail places, they're always operating right at the edge, and they just can't match what folks are doing on unemployment. It's not bad here yet for me. I'm really starting to feel it in Lawrence a lot with the restaurant there, but I have talked to some business owners here in town in Leavenworth that are having issues with it, and I feel like it's eroding those things that make Leavenworth special. There's something intangible about the dignity of work when somebody is able to work and earn money for themselves and buy things and have things and provide for their family out of the sweat of their brow. There's something there's something transformative about that, and when a person loses that, it wounds their soul. And I'm afraid that if this continues too long, it might do irreparable damage to that thing that's so special about Leavenworth. And so I just want to get us all back to work. I want to get this county firing again on all cylinders, and I just we're going to come back. I know the people here, we're going to come back, but we can't wait too long. We gotta get going.
Sounds great. Well, sounds like you've got really a lot laid out, and you've really thought this through, and you've done your research on what needs to be done to make Kansas and Leavenworth thrive again.
God willing.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add to Kansas and into Leavenworth?
Yeah, so I'm not a politician. I'm a public servant. I've served the public for 25 plus years. My entire adult life I've spent serving the nation and serving my community. So when I decided to do this, I did not know what I was getting myself into. And so this has been the most amazing journey that I've been on. The folks that I've met just on the doorstep, talking to folks and hearing about their dreams and hearing about what they want to achieve for themselves and their families and what's important to them. It's just, I'm going to carry that with me my whole life. That's just been amazing. But this is a lot of work.
Yes.
And it takes a lot of people, and it takes a lot of energy. And so if you're watching this at home and you're interested in joining our campaign, there's a million ways that you can help, from helping, signs are going out this weekend, putting out signs, to talking to your neighbors about me and about the campaign and about what we're trying to do. If you would like to host something at your house so that I can meet your neighbors, because a lot of people don't want you on their doorstep yet. A lot of people are still concerned about coronavirus. That would be a great opportunity to just meet my neighbors and tell them what I'm all about and hear what's important to them. But honestly, I am honored to have the support of those folks that have contributed or have volunteered or have just lent their support to the campaign. And I hope that the trust and the confidence that they've placed in me, when I carry that to Topeka, I hope that I do right by this town, because this town, over 5 years of me as a geo bachelor, 2 tours to Iraq, 1 tour to Afghanistan, this town was taking care of my family while I was off doing all those things, and it's a debt I can never repay. And so I hope that if the people of Leavenworth, Fort Leavenworth honor me with their vote and I go to Topeka, that I can just begin to pay back some tiny bit of all the incredible things that this community has done for me and my family.
Now, if someone wants to get a hold of you to either volunteer or to ask questions and just kind of see where you're at and discuss with you, or if they want to contribute to the campaign or whatever else, how do we get a hold of that?
Okay, so I have a website. It's Pat Proctor, the number 4ks.com. I'm also on Facebook, because of course everybody's on Facebook. Pat Proctor for Kansas Representative. It's a Facebook page. If you just put that in the search engine, it'll go right to me. And then you know what? You can call me. My number is 250-5553. So if you want to get a hold of me that way, that goes right to my phone. That isn't go. I don't have a campaign team. I've got Pat with a cell phone. You can call me, and I would be honored to have your help and support.
You know, one thing that Watch Kansas always likes to advise of when we find it is that I had no problem getting a hold of him. Every time I reached out to Pat, we've been chatting back and forth for a week or so. Every time I've reached out to him, and via Facebook, I'm a Facebook person, and I messaged him on Facebook. Within a few hours the next day, if it was late, I got a response back. When I asked him to send me pictures and 3 words to describe him, like I like to use some of the candidates to help me out when I do the intros, he had it to me the next day. So what I want to make sure is, you know, is he's very responsive. He's very easy to get a hold of, and if you can get a hold of someone now, you'll be able to get a hold of him when he's in Topeka.
Amen.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
This is
and
great.
have a great day. This is Tracy with Watch Kansas with Pat Proctor.